Hello, welcome back. In this video, we're going to try to determine an angle which satisfies two inequalities. One of them is like secant of that angle is positive and cotangent of that angle is positive. I just wanted to remind you this unit circle, the picture here, that you have points on the unit circle as you see, and every point corresponds to an angle on the unit circle. And we know that the x entry of the point is going to be the cosine of that angle, and y entry is going to be the sine of that angle. So in other words, let me just write down here. If you have a point on the unit circle, let's say x and y, okay, x entry and y entry on the unit circle. And unit circle means like you have a circle of radius 1, and you pick a point x and y, and we know that x is the cosine theta, and theta is the angle that the terminal side makes, and that terminal side crosses the point x and y. And y coordinate is going to be exactly the sine of theta. All right. So we're going to use this idea to determine what quadrant we are in depending on the sign of x and y. So let's just remember that tan theta is sine over cosine, and that should be y over x. Okay. And cotan of theta is the reciprocal of tan, which is 1 over tangent theta, that's x over y. And we need secant here. Let me just write down the secant. Secant theta is 1 over cosine theta. So it's the reciprocal of cosine, but cosine theta is x. So the reciprocal of that is going to be 1 over x. So we're given two inequalities involving secant and cotan. Okay, so both are positive. The second inequality implies that you divide 1 by x and you get a positive number at the end. That implies what? This implies that x is positive. Okay, so the x entry of the point is positive. And we're going to use the same idea here. So we're dividing x by y and get a positive number, but we know that x is positive. And to get a positive number in the output here, when you divide by y has to be positive. So essentially, this implies that we're looking for a point x and y for which x is positive, y is positive. So that only happens in the first quadrant, right? Who is the first quadrant? The first quadrant is the one that involves thetas in between 0 and pi over 2. So that means theta is in quadrant 1. All right? And I can bring you this nice picture here. And that's like that's a good guide for you to check which trigonometric function is positive in a given quadrant. So as you see in quadrant 1, all 3 trig functions are positive, and here only sine is positive and cosine and tan are negative. And here sine and cosine are negative, well, which is pretty much expected because you're in the third quadrant, and all of the points on the third quadrant come with negative x and negative y values. And for that reason, tan is sine over cosine, so it's positive. And in the fourth quadrant, only cosine is positive and sine is negative, and tan accordingly is negative. All right, so that's the end of it. I'll see you in another video. Bye.